I'm Myriam.
And I'm Elyse. Two friends bound by the love of books.
Taking on the world one chapter at a time. This is the Book Bound Besties podcast. Hey, Book Bound Besties! Welcome to episode 4. I cannot believe we're already here.
A month in.
Yeah, of season 3 of the Book Bound Besties podcast, where we dive deep into your favorite books, have unhinged chats, and Elyse theorizes about what's to come because she has not read the whole book yet. Today we are talking about From Blood and Ash, chapters 13 through 16. And these are like yucky chapters, but also yes chapters.
There's only one yucky, really.
Yeah, but it's an entire chapter long of yuck.
Oh, it's very yuck.
Yeah.
Lots of yuck. So much ick.
Exactly. And so in light of that, do not listen to this with little ears.
Yeah.
This is not for them. Let's preserve their innocence because I wish my innocence was preserved. I wish I did not have to read this. Like, I think it's the third time I read this. No. We do not like. I mean, obviously, it's very important for the story, but it was not fun to read, and it is not going to be fun to talk about. Also, your weekly reminder to please, if you like our podcast, leave us a review, particularly on Apple Podcasts, because a written review on Apple Podcasts pushes us through the algorithm, exposes us to more potential listeners, and we can just grow this Book Bound Bestie community even more.
Yeah, please.
Exactly. Okay, Elyse, we have barely spoken.
Yeah.
This past week.
I know.
What did you do?
Honestly, I had a really relaxing week, which was nice.
Must be nice.
Yeah. The school year is going to start picking up, so I was just like relishing in the last moments of summer. I don't know if
What are you talking about, the last moments of summer? We still have some summer to go.
Before school picks up, though. That's what I'm saying.
But that's for another little while. When does school pick up?
Well, my meetings and stuff start on the 15th, and I have class prep to do, and...
Already?
School doesn't just start. Teachers
No.
have to
I know.
prepare.
That I knew. Besties, you know that we record in advance. So we're beginning of August right now. But I didn't realize that it started so soon. I thought it was like after Labor Day.
College starts earlier.
Oh.
Anyway, I don't know if I've spoken too much about it on the podcast, but one of my many jobs is teaching in a theater department. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this week it was quite relaxing, and I've been watching a lot of the Olympics.
Me too.
I figured, yeah.
So fun. Yeah. Justin and I, Sunday, we had a wedding Saturday.
Yeah.
Sunday was a rough day for us. We watched the the Olympic coverage live, and then we watched the entire replay.
Oh my God.
That's how long we sat on the couch. We watched everything twice.
That's crazy. I'm not that hardcore about it, but...
Because we were just two potatoes on the couch, like, trying to recover from the night before.
For sure. One thing I did do this weekend, though, is I went to go see a play called...
How cultured of you.
Called I and You, which was actually done by some of the graduates of the program.
Oh, cool.
So I wanted to go support them and stuff. But it was... A lot of the script or story, whatever, is based around Walt Whitman's Leaves of Grass, which is like a classic, which I have never read.
Never heard of it.
You've never heard of Leaves of Grass?
No.
Anyway, it's like a classic. I've never read it, but it is a classic, and it's a book mostly of poetry. And this...
That's probably why. Not a fan.
I don't really care for poetry either, which is why I didn't read it, but... There was a lot of passages in the play that were really good, and it's a lot about life and death and seeing the beauty of life even when you're surrounded in death. It was really, it was sad, but it was a really beautiful play. But there was a passage that made me think of Poppy, so I'm going to read it for you. Quote, "Re-examine all that you've been told at church or school or in any book. Dismiss whatever insults your soul, and your very flesh shall be a great poem."
You have no idea how accurate that will be for Poppy's journey.
Well, I had an inkling. That's why I wrote it down. But it was funny because I was like sitting there listening to the actors, and when he spoke those words, which he was just quoting Leaves of Grass, I was just like, started thinking From Blood and Ash. And also kind of ties into Fourth Wing too.
Yeah, but more so for Blood and Ash, as you will see as we embark on this journey.
Anyway.
That's really cool.
So yeah, even though I was sitting watching a touching but sad play, I was thinking of my fantasy books, I guess.
Love that for you.
But that's all I did this weekend. Otherwise, Scott and I literally were just home. Actually, we went on a hike, but still, that was just us and Stevie. It was nice to do nothing. I need to do nothing more often.
I'm a huge fan.
I know.
Huge fan of doing nothing.
I like it too. Our lives are just chaos. I don't know. I think I breed chaos. I think it's my fault. But anyway, I'm trying to change that a little bit.
Acknowledging it is the first step, as they say.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, like I said, I had a wedding this weekend. Mm-hmm. It was so hot. It was so hot. Saturday had to have been like 40 degrees here with the humidity and everything.
It was insanely hot.
Celsius.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Fahrenheit, people were going to be like, that's cold. No. Celsius. That's like over 100 degrees, I want to say.
I don't know.
I don't know the conversion. Sorry.
No, but it was ridiculously hot.
It was really, really hot.
Yeah.
It was in a beautiful outdoor venue. But again, outdoors, 40-degree heat. Whew. It was rough. But it was really, really beautiful. It was between one of my really good friends who's French-Canadian and her now husband is from El Salvador.
Okay.
So it was really fun to kind of get that mix of the two cultures. Like the mother-son dance was I think it was a salsa. It was some sort of Latin dance. It was really
fun.
Yeah, it was really cool. And obviously tons of incredible dancers. Like the father of the groom was pulling all the girls, showing us how to dance and stuff. And, you know, it was just a really fun vibe, very different from, you know, weddings that we've gone to in the past.
That's cool.
Yeah, as a result, Sunday was a rough day for me.
It was a well-deserved couch potato day.
Yeah, it really was. Well,
so let's get into it.
Let's do it.
Okay, we have very little world building this chunk of chapters, but there was something that I thought was worth noting. They kind of touch upon the seasons of the world that we're in. So Carcedonia, we learned, is in the west, and it's between the Shroud Sea and the Willow Plains, which I think is the first time we hear mention of these places. And without a map, I couldn't even reference what it looked like, but anyway. But Poppy says that summer and spring are eternal there, so they don't have glass in their windows. So it's just very much your climate, I would say.
Absolutely. Honestly, I could 1000% live in a world where it's spring and summer all year round. Winter, could shove it where the sun don't shine. I am not looking forward to the winter and to the fall is like fine. It's fine. But the winter, it's just because, you know why I don't like the fall? It's because it's a precursor to the winter. And the winters here in Canada are so shitty. Like, honestly.
Okay, but this past year, I'd have to say we had one of the mildest winters we've ever had.
But it's not even the cold. Like, yes, the cold is annoying, but I hibernate. I just don't go outside. I'm not a fan of winter sports. I just don't. It's fine. It's the darkness. The darkness just shreds my soul. Yeah. Whoever came up with daylight saving, I know it's because of like farming or whatever, but we are not a farming agricultural society. We have not been for like 200 years. Get rid of the darn thing. I feel very passionately about it.
There's been talk about it.
There has. I think, you know what we're doing is we here are waiting on the US
to do it
because of all the economic repercussions of it. And I just want to be like, Canada, just do it.
Yeah,
do us all a favor.
The U.S. is in a state of retrograde. It doesn't seem to want new things. It wants to go back to old things.
A universally acceptable notion.
I agree. I just don't know if the U.S. will do it.
If it were up to you, would you want it to be light later in the morning, but longer in the evening? Mm-hmm. Or earlier in the morning?
I agree. We should abolish daylight saving time.
So
that's what you're trying to ask.
Darker in the morning, but lighter
in the evening. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah. No, I agree. It kills my soul too. For sure.
I mean, no. Some people really appreciate getting up with more light. I don't personally care.
Whether it's dark when I wake up or light when I wake up, it doesn't affect me, but it definitely affects me at night when it's dark at like 5 p.m. I can't. My day's done. Yeah. My body's just like, okay, it's bedtime.
Exactly.
I know. It's really hard to push through those months. So yeah, I agree.
I'm in a feisty mood today. Oh my goodness.
I can tell.
I picked us up some Timbits and the sugar is just hitting me.
Yes, Timbits. How Canadian of us.
I know. They're donut holes, basically.
Yes. Anyway, the other little world building fact is in Macedonia, in the east, where we are currently located in the book, is colder. So she doesn't say it, but I would presume it's fall and winter seasons.
I mean, or they have all 4 seasons. We don't really know.
Or maybe. Anyway, she says it gets colder, so they do have glass windows to keep the cold out, because in the upcoming scenes, there's Poppy staring out her window. And then also just super quick fact, we learned that when they honored the dead, they raised black flags. That's it. That's the world building.
All right, let's mosey on over
to chapter 13, which is awful.
I'm dreading it.
Ugh. Chapter 13. We have front row seats at Poppy's lesson with the Duke. But unlike Lord Mazine, we hate every minute. Poppy fights hard not to break, not to give them the satisfaction, but every moment of this chapter is heartbreaking.
Yeah, I absolutely hate it. Okay.
Yeah, I couldn't just be like factual with my summary. I was like, I didn't like this at all.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we're meant to, so deep breaths. Let's do this. Okay. Poppy enters the Duke's office and she tries to beat him to the punch because she knows this song and dance. It's not her first rodeo. So she apologizes for disappointing him, but he's like not picking up what she's putting down. He says, quote, "Do you even know what you have done that has disappointed me?" So apparently trying to beat him to the punch
didn't work.
Did not work. She then homes in on the fact that Lord Mazine is in the room and notices a bunch of canes propped up against a bookcase. So buckle up. This is going to be so fun. Pause not. And Lord Mazine is such a little shit because she's looking at him and she's like, okay, why was I summoned? Because she's thinking about a million reasons for why she was summoned.
Yeah.
You know, for this lesson. Could it be because she went to the Red Pearl? Could it be because she was sassy with the Duke when she removed her veil? Could it be because of her interaction with Lord Mazine? Like, the list goes on and on. She's not, you know, some little goody two-shoes. Whatever. She wouldn't be an interesting heroine if she was. But
yeah. But I mean, basically, it doesn't matter what she does. She's going to get punished by the Duke. So she just kind of learned to live a little.
Yeah, exactly. She is taking risks that she's comfortable taking, I guess. I don't even know. Anyway, so Lord Mazine is sitting there smiling because he knows now she's probably panicking, unsure about why it is that she was summoned. But if she says something, like, what if she said, oh, like she preemptively tries to say something about her conversation with Lord Mazine, but that's not at all why she's being summoned, then she's digging her own grave. And he knows that. And that's why he's smiling at her like a little caca. It's just like
he sucks.
This chapter really grinds my gears. So, you know, Poppy tries again. She tries to apologize preemptively for whatever. She's doing a blanket apology for whatever she did wrong, because surely whatever she did, whatever disappointed the Duke, is surely her fault. Quote, "You're never disappointed in me without cause." The Duke appears to appreciate this because he's like, absolutely, you're totally, you know, of course I'm a reasonable person. I would not be upset without cause. However, quote, "I've been blindsided by what I've been told." Now you're like really on the edge of your seat. You're just like, what the heck is this guy going to pull out of his hat?
So dramatic.
I know. And Poppy, alongside with me, Myriam, is freaking out over what it is that he's upset about. Like, okay, if he's been blindsided by something, did he find out about the Red Pearl? Because that's really, I mean, you're saying blindsided. This is a very dramatic turn of phrase.
To our knowledge is the worst thing. That's the worst thing she's done.
It's the worst thing she could possibly do. She's the maiden and she's going to a pleasure den.
Scandal.
Yeah. She's then instructed to remove her veil, which is not unusual in the presence of the Duke and Duchess, but it is unusual in front of Lord Mazine. You know, she tries to, you know, talk the Duke out of this instruction, but he's like, do not test my patience, just do it. So she removes her veil and keeps her eyes downcast until he instructs her to lift her eyes to meet his, which I think is just so disgusting because you could just tell, like, she even says, like, I kept my eyes, you know, downcast the way he likes. Like, it just makes me so mad because clearly she has been in this situation so many times that she has learned how to behave in order to minimize his reactions. And somehow, no matter what efforts she takes, he's still going to find a reason to be upset with a behavior. Like, she even says it, I think, a little while later, that, like, the way she eats her food, or, you know, she goes, I wouldn't be surprised if the way I breathed upset him. Like, he will find just the stupidest little thing to be upset at her for. So anyway, he then comes, this part I have, like, heebie-jeebies. I have creepy crawlies all over my body. He approaches her. He touches her face, looks, examines her face, compliments her beauty, and then turns her head to the side that is scarred and then denigrates it. So that's
so sad.
I know. It's like, it's so manipulative and it's so just disgusting, especially because we know that she has been quote unquote raised by the Duke and Duchess since she was a child. Like, they've known her since she was a child. And so to be around people who like lift you up only to
the
cut you down,
deep-rooted like trauma that causes, like, that is, even though she is like being defiant and she's learning to live around this whole situation, moments like that, those scars cut so deep that it's like those words are always at the back of your head, and those moments are always at the back of your head. Like, for her to like fully like heal herself from the Duke and everything he's done, it just takes years and years and years of therapy, which in this world probably doesn't exist, but like to really rid yourself of that kind of,
from someone else.
To truly rid yourself of that is hard. It is a long and hard road. So
yeah, he also mocks the fact that Hawke called her beautiful, kind of like, oh, you think he could have said anything else? It's like, yeah, he could have just not said anything. Then he throws us this curveball amidst all this mind games, all this insulting and praising and insulting and praising whatever of her. He throws in there that he knew her mom, that she looks so much like her mom. And she's just like, what? Can you imagine? She's been with these people, like I said before, since she was a child. And this is the first mention that he knew her mom.
I know. Wild.
Poppy tries to swallow her revulsion as he compliments her eyes, her mouth, her body. And then, again, out of nowhere, he brings up Priestess Analia. The priestess is upset because Poppy didn't pick up her embroidery or engage in conversation with the other priestesses and left her most recent lesson last week after 30 minutes. Poppy's like, huh? She was not expecting that at all.
Of all the things.
Yeah, she's kind of pissed off about it, but she lies and she blames it on her mind being occupied with the upcoming rite. The Duke claims that he would have found that excuse plausible, except he also heard that she spent time in the atrium with other ladies in wait. And he's like, if you were in the atrium, that's fine. Like, you're allowed to be in the atrium. But conversing with other people, that's a big no-no. And on top of that, the priestess also thinks that you're getting a little too familiar with your lady's maid, Tawny.
I know, that made me so sad. I was like, don't take Tawny away.
Yeah, and he's like relishing in the fact that they will never be friends and she cannot have, any familiarity with anybody emotionally, mentally, whatever. Like,
but that just goes to show, like, why do you think Poppy is constantly questioning if Tawny's her
no, I know.
friend? Like, it's so rooted in her.
I don't think it's unreasonable for her to have those concerns. It's easy for us to say as an outsider with our worldly experience, but
no, for sure. But it's just to go with what we were saying before. The Duke's constantly, if that is one of the things he's constantly telling her, it's like you start to believe it after a while,
For sure. The Duke has been drinking, but she's very, very grateful that he's not drinking what she calls Red Ruin, because that is this brew from like the mountains or something. And when he did last time drink that during one of her lessons, she couldn't walk for days after he assaulted her, basically. So anyway, she just notes the fact that, he's drinking. She's wondering how much he's had to drink so far. But then again, he's kind of, like, it's interesting because we're getting her frame of mind and we're getting her kind of stream of consciousness. And that's one of the things I actually wanted to talk about today that I love so much about this book is just being in Poppy's head, because her head is such an interesting place to be. She's always asking herself a million questions. She's always just thinking, she's going from topic to topic, and I think that that's just so real. That's exactly how normal people think. And usually when you're reading a book and you're in a character's head, it's always very streamlined and it's always very, they'll have a whole coherent thought and then they'll move on to another whole coherent thought. And the jump from one thought to another will always make sense, but hers are just random all over the place, and I relate. Anyway, then he says, now he's ramping up, to the main event. And he's saying how, the fact that her parents were slaughtered should have been lesson enough, but, apparently not. And he's doing this for her own good and blah, 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 blah. And then he brings up the real reason he's pissed off. And it's because when she removed her veil, when they were talking about Ryland's replacement, she looked at him like she wanted to inflict physical harm. Little does he know, A, she did, B, she could.
Yeah, I figured that was going to come back to bite her in the butt.
Yeah. Poppy swallows her pride this whole time, right? All of the crap he's throwing her way, she's just taking it on the chin. But she cannot stand the disrespect to Ryland's memory, so she corrects the Duke on calling him Brian. And now Lord Mazine joins the conversation. He's just a creep sitting on the couch observing this whole thing, and now he's like, oh, she's not so demure now, is she? Now the Duke is, like, satisfied. He's got this, like, disgusting smile on his face. He's got what he needs to justify giving her a lesson. He says, quote, I believe 4 lashes will suffice. But Poppy eggs him on, like, girl, what are you doing? So she's like, oh, are you sure that's enough? And so he's like, you know what, you're right. How about 7? And he's like, yeah, I think 7 will do.
Yeah.
7 freaking lashes with a cane.
Yeah. Have you ever seen Breakfast Club?
Yes.
Okay.
Cultured.
So the, like, bad boy and the principal get in a fight, and the principal's trying to give him detention. He's like, are you sure that's enough? And, like, the number just keeps going up. Anyway, love that movie.
Mm-hmm. I went through a real Molly Ringwald phase at one point.
Yeah, I was in, I want to say, like, later high school.
Me too. I think it was about that time.
With, like, all the John Hughes movies.
Yeah. Poppy is seething, contemplating attacking the Duke and the Lord, but then she considers the implication of upsetting the Queen. The Queen who took care of her after the Craven attack. So this is kind of interesting because we haven't really learned much about the Queen. We've only known that Poppy is her favorite, but we don't really know why. And we don't know how close they were in childhood. So now we actually learn that the Queen stood by Poppy's sickbed as she was healing from the Craven attack, changed her bandages, consoled her in her grief, held her when she had nightmares. Like, this Queen took care of her as if she were her own daughter. So despite all of this darkness around the Ascended and all of Poppy's concerns about her ascension and about the society and about the way things are run, the through line through all of this is her love for the Queen, who, like, okay, maybe love is the strong word, but her genuine affection for the Queen.
Right. Why would the Queen hand her over to the Duke then? Like,
she must not know what happens. She must not be aware of what's happening.
Maybe. I guess the Duke is really good at putting on a mask, because 2 seconds with this dude and you're like, ugh.
Well, because we've only had private time with him. We haven't had, like, public-facing time.
That's what I'm saying. He must be really good at putting on a mask.
It's with the thoughts of the Queen that Poppy assumes her position with her hands on the Duke's desk, but then he reminds her that she's not actually ready, and she removes not only her dress, but also her undergarment, so she is fully topless. She has one hand covering her chest, one hand propped up on the desk to
brace herself.
Thank you. I cannot imagine the humiliation, and I really don't want to think about it too hard, or I just might throw my laptop across the room. Like, it just makes me so upset. The Duke lectures her on the necessity of this lesson and is kind of acting as though he doesn't want to do this, but it's for her own good. But Poppy knows that he's just brimming with anticipation. He cannot wait to inflict this pain on her. And he tells her to brace herself, and then he strikes. And then he strikes, and he strikes, and he strikes. And the last sentence of this chapter just gets me every time. Quote, skin burning, I bit down on my lip until I tasted blood. I stared through the haze of tears at the painting of the veiled worshippers, wondering how horrible the Atlanteans must have been for men like the Duke of Macedonia and Lord Mazine to receive the blessing of ascension from the gods. Bam.
Yeah, I wrote that too. Just, even though it wasn't my chapter, just that passage really, really stuck with me. Like, and also, it might have been why the line in the play really stuck with me, because I was just like, oh, like, why? This world doesn't make sense. They shouldn't have power if they were really blessed by the gods. So it's like, were they blessed by the gods? Is it all a lie? Is it a cult? Like, what is this? I don't know. What are we getting into, basically, is where my brain was spinning.
Yeah. Large exhale.
Yeah.
Dimple count.
None.
So question count 2. I didn't even want to find something in this chapter.
Romantic? Or all?
All.
Yeah, definitely no romantic awards, because there's no love in this chapter.
Did you find something funny?
Poppy thinks to herself, now I truly wanted to inflict physical harm.
Yeah, okay.
Which is like, is it really funny? No, but it was the best I could do.
Okay, fair enough.
And then spiciest? Do you have one?
No.
Oh.
I literally did not want to spend more time in this chapter than I had to.
Fair. When Poppy says, are you sure that's enough? I wouldn't want you to feel as if you haven't done enough.
Okay. I give that. Granted. That's a good one.
Defiant.
Oh, I was just so mad. So mad.
Yeah, it was not a fun chapter.
No.
Chapter 14. Poppy's been recovering from her last lesson with the Duke. She's been up at night, unable to sleep. As she's looking out the window, there's an attack on the castle. But Poppy is not going to just sit by and watch. She grabs her bow and heads for the action, which is kind of exciting.
Mm-hmm. I know for a fact, we are approaching I want to say like triggering event of the book that's going to change the trajectory of the book very, very soon.
Okay.
And so these next few chapters are just bringing us ever closer to that point, and it's so exciting. And I think, no, never mind.
I mean, yeah, I definitely, I'm still at a point where I was like, where I'm feeling, where is this going? Obviously, we've talked a little bit about it, but Poppy is questioning the world that she lives in. And I think that will be a core part of her journey or whatever. But we still just know so little. Like, we don't know anything about the Ascension. We don't know what the purpose of a maiden is. We don't know. I don't know. It's almost, what's the story? Like, I don't know where we're headed because I don't have enough facts. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I guess we're nearing the halfway.
No.
We're nearing the halfway.
Are we really? Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh.
So.
That's wild.
Yeah. It goes by fast.
It really does go by fast.
It's like slow but fast. I don't know.
I agree with you. Yeah. Well, it's like I reposted my unhinged book review. And it's like I said, even by the end of the book, you're going to have so many questions.
Yeah. And I mean, it is a huge series, too.
Exactly.
So I can't expect to get all of the answers right away.
And it's a series that really builds on itself. It's not like, I don't know, I'm not going to, name any other series. But a lot of times other series have many small conflicts or many small, like, it's almost as if the story comes out in phases. Where phase 1 is an entire loop.
It's almost like ACOTAR is kind of like that. It's every book is its own journey, I find.
Yeah,
like you still have an overarching through line, but it's very like...
Yeah, I guess I was going to even compare it to, let's say, Throne of Glass, which you haven't finished. But if you think of Throne of Glass and you think of Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight, that's kind of one phase of the story. And then you think of... We'll skip Assassin's Blade, but you think of Heir of Fire and Queen of Shadows. That's another phase of the story. And then you've got Empire of Swords, Tower of Dawn, and Kingdom of Ash, which is really the wrap-up of the whole series, and it ties everything into a bow. But you're kind of... I guess that's the only way I can really categorize it as is phases of the story. Whereas this series, it's like layers of a cake. And every time you're just going a little bit deeper... It's not an entire new crazy story, although maybe a little towards the end. But for the most part, you're just continuously getting more context for really the same basic situation and how the characters kind of deal with that information. It's really interesting, and it's a very different way of experiencing a story. Anyway, I'm just going to shut up now.
I think when we were talking to Carly... She had said that this book or this series is just a wild ride that you just got to kind of, like, you won't know where it's headed.
No.
And that was kind of what she said, because I think at the time we were talking about Iron Flame and Fourth Wing and stuff, and it's very much there's things that are established and you find little nuggets, but once you get those nuggets, you look back and you're like, oh, they were there all along. And
you'll have that with this too.
But she said it's different in this. It's very much, you won't really know where you're headed, but you're going to be happy to be there.
Yeah, like I predicted one thing in this book, and then I predicted one thing in the most recent Flesh and Fire book, not the one that's about to come out, but the one that was just before, which we still don't have the answers to, and I'm really hoping either we'll get it in Born of Blood and Ash or the next From Blood and Ash book. But yeah, you just kind of, it's a roller coaster that you just need to ride, this series.
Yeah. So Poppy leaves the Duke's office, and to her relief, Hawke is not the one waiting for her. Victor is. She's kind of reflecting that she wouldn't know how to hide what happens in the office, and she doesn't want Hawke to know. Victor asks Poppy if she's okay, and she plays it off as if it wasn't that bad, but you could see his concern. And you could see the helplessness that Victor feels too, because he can't really do anything about it. And Poppy then explains why she was lashed, and it was because she spoke with the ladies in wait, or that's what he tells her, what she tells him. So Victor uses this as a warning to try to get Poppy to stop going on her adventures, because she would be even more severely punished than she already is for doing next to nothing. Mm-hmm. But Poppy pushes back with the fact that they train together and that would be just as bad as a punishment. So
absolutely.
At this point, she's like, it doesn't really matter what I do. Like, I can't live in this bubble, you know?
Absolutely. And I also love how she knows she doesn't deserve this. She knows she doesn't deserve what's happening to her. She may feel shame over what happens in the lessons. Like, she does mention how, and it really just makes me want to punch a hole in a wall. She says that at one point, Lord Mazine removed her hand that was covering her chest so that both of her hands were braced on the desk. And that just made me so mad.
I know.
But she also knows she's not to blame. So it is, like, shameful that she's in this situation, and I can understand that. But it's shameful that she's put in the situation, not that she's put in the situation. You know what I mean?
Wait, what?
Like, the fact that she's put in this situation is shameful.
Yeah.
But not her specifically.
Oh, yes. Yeah, she has done nothing to earn it, really.
Yeah.
And I think that brings up, like, a really good point. Like, it's such a testament to her strength and character. The fact that she can step back and acknowledge and realize that she doesn't deserve it and it's not really her fault. Yeah. Like, that is huge.
Absolutely.
And she's so young and she's been in this torture for so long. So for her to be able to recognize that is a huge...
Well, especially because you can't really say that she's well surrounded. Like, yeah, she's got Victor. Yeah, she's got Tawny. But she doesn't have these guiding figures in her life other than them who can bolster her and strengthen her and lift her up. It's like an innate strength. Love that. Love Poppy.
Yeah, I love it. Side note, just because it popped into my head, that because at the end of the last chapter with the last sentence, I was like, oh my God, like, is any of this true? Or is it like just they are pretending to have been appointed by the gods or whatever?
Some sort of propaganda.
So I was like, oh my God, maybe it's a cult. And then I started thinking of all the ways that it kind of is like a cult, because one of the key tactics in cults is isolation. Yeah. To gain control.
Absolutely.
And penalizing cult members for leaving and or disobeying. So I was just like, oh my God, it's like a cult. Like, the Ascended are literally whisked away as soon as they are officially brought into this cult, I guess, if you will, which makes them isolated. We don't know what's going on with them. Even before that,
when they're 13 and they're presented as lords and ladies in wait, that's when it happens. It's before they even become Ascended.
Yeah, so it's like there's levels to it almost. Yeah. And once you achieve this highest level, you're completely isolated. You're moved to the capital. We don't know what's going on in the capital. We don't know anything about it.
Yeah, so they go to the capital for their ascension, but then they're spread out through the kingdom because...
Oh, I thought they lived in the capital.
Well, no, because think about it. The Duke and Duchess are Ascended. Lord Mazine is Ascended.
I thought they were just in roles of...
No, and if you recall, in last week's episode when we're having that conversation with Lauren and Defina, and they're talking about Prince Castile, and they're talking about how he attacked this lord's castle and, you know, gained the wife's affections or whatever, they are Ascended as well, and they're located in Three Rivers, I believe. Okay. So they are, like, the Ascended are the nobility, and the nobility are spread through the kingdom, overseeing the kingdom and the operations of the kingdom.
Right. Okay. And then also just the concept of the maiden too, like the fact that Poppy literally isn't allowed to talk to anyone, cuts her off from everyone, which cuts her off essentially from learning anything that could potentially make her question the way things are. And like, obviously they've decided that she is important to their system. So by isolating her, they're keeping her in control, or they think they are, because obviously she's a rebel. We know that. They don't know that. But the idea of keeping the maiden isolated and in control so that she does go through with her ascension because it's so important to their whole regime. Like, anyway, it's just, there was a lot of like cult-like factors.
Very good observation.
Thanks. I find cults terrifying and fascinating.
Oh my goodness. Justin and I during COVID went through such a phase. We were obsessed with NXIVM.
Okay.
Have you?
No.
No? Oh my goodness.
I feel like I've heard the name, but
You need to listen. It's on Crave.
Okay.
Or HBO Max for our international listeners.
Mm-hmm.
It is called NXIVM, and it follows this guy, Keith Raniere, who claims to be, like, it's absolutely absurd what he claims to be. But do you remember Allison Mack, the actress? She was, what was she on? Google it?
Yeah, I was about to Google her.
What was she on?
Smallville?
Yeah. So Allison Mack was on Smallville. Anyway, there were Bronfmans. Bronfman is a really famous family here in Montreal. Bronfmans were a part of this cult.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And they actually, so it was pitched to people as a success program, like a professional entrepreneurial kind of success program. And they did this mini series that came out during the pandemic, and they're one of the main people in this documentary. She's Canadian. She's from Vancouver, and it's just really, really well done. They have all this insane footage from NXIVM, from the leader. Anyway, absolutely incredibly well done. What was it called? We'll put it in the show notes.
Okay.
Because really, if you like cults, you will love this documentary. Because, get this, okay? It starts off as a cult. Well, it starts off as this success program, okay? But then, at the height of it, became a sex cult. Which I feel like it always ends up coming back down to. It always comes down to sex. But
yeah.
Absolutely
sex
insane.
And power.
Where, like, women were being branded. Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Have you ever listened? We're doing so many tangents today, guys. I'm sorry, but
it's just one of those days.
Have you ever listened to the podcast Sounds Like a Cult?
No.
It's great. It's these two girls, and the episodes aren't very long. Like, I want to say 35 minutes. And they take things in the zeitgeist and analyze them on whether or not they are a cult or like a cult. But, like, they take things like just pop
like
culture
Sarah J.
things.
Maas books.
I don't think they've done one, but they should.
They really should.
I don't know, because I haven't listened to it in a while, but they really should. But they would do something like that. They'd be like, okay, Sarah J. Maas books, and they talk about it, and they go into, like, the way they would probably analyze the way people get really nasty on the internet about it. And they talk about all these things. And then at the end of the show, they rate whatever the topic is on whether it is, like, safe, just live your own life, it's not a cult, watch your back, which, like, there's some culty undertones there, or get the fuck out, which is like, it's a cult.
Can you give us examples?
Well, I listened to Disney adults, let's say.
Ooh, okay.
So they talked about it, and it's interesting because they interview people, or, like, they'll have people come on and stuff, and they analyzed, like, just how deep it goes. And there is some stuff that, like, starts to get a little bit crazy because, like, there's these groups of people. I love Disney, no shame. But there are groups of people that, like, started almost like gangs, and they, like, went into the Disney parks, and they were banned from the Disney parks because they would get into fights. Yeah. But at the end of the day, they analyzed it all, and they gave it a rating of, spoiler, sorry guys, that live your own life. Like, it's fine. You know, maybe don't go in life debt for Disney, but, like,
that's
you know,
wild.
And
that's
then,
really
but then they did a Tony Robbins episode, and oh my God, listen to it.
Did they do a Taylor Swift one? That I would want to hear.
I think they did do. Did they? I think they might have done. Yeah,
they
the Swiftie one. Anyway, they did. What's that bike spinning?
Soul Cycle.
Oh, Soul Cycle. It was Soul Cycle. They did Soul Cycle. Anyway, it's just really interesting, and the episodes aren't very long, but they do their research. They talk to interesting people, and then it also just makes you kind of understand how cults work, which is fascinating in itself. Anyway, highly recommend if you're into that thing, that kind of thing.
You know what? I have to be honest. I would 99% sure get sucked into NXIVM. I'm putting that out there. I am so susceptible. I have such an addictive personality. I mean, look at us. Look at what we're doing. This is evidence in and of itself.
Book Bound Besties. Is it a cult? Oh, God. Okay. Anyway.
Okay, back to Poppy.
Okay. So Victor then says he hopes the queen summons her to the capital sooner because that way she would get away from the punishments from the Duke. He also asks if the Duke was alone, and Poppy actually lies. She didn't want to tell him about Lord Mazine. And I just want to ask you, like, why do you think she lied?
Because it's already humiliating enough for her that she doesn't want to add to the humiliation or add to the fact that more people know about it. Mm-hmm. And she probably wants to spare Victor's feelings.
That is a very fair answer.
Yeah. I do want to point out that when Victor says that he really wouldn't mind if she gets called to the Capitol early, Poppy actually agrees because she plans on telling the Queen everything. And she knows that she can't via correspondence because all correspondence is read. But I like that she has enough confidence in her relationship with the Queen and in her knowledge that what is happening is not correct morally, that she is going to do something about it. And she knows that if the Queen were to find out, things would not end well for the Duke.
Yeah, I like that. Let's end things not well for the Duke, please.
Yeah.
We then find out that Hawke was actually the one who sent for Victor because he was worried about the way Poppy kind of responded to being summoned by the Duke. And it just reinforces how observant he is. But Victor, when he got the news, just kind of brushed it off as if it wasn't a big deal and took over the situation, knowing that Poppy probably wouldn't want Hawke to be involved. So then there's a bit of a chapter break, and we are in Poppy's room. She's awake again because of nightmares, so she's just kind of up in her bedroom. And we've learned that a couple of nights have passed and Tawny's been healing her back wounds.
With Arnica, which is a real life product that you can use, that I highly recommend. Anybody who has a bruise, you put that cream on it, makes it go away super fast.
Huh, I've never used it.
Yeah, you should. It's like a natural homeopathic
That's cool.
thing. I'm not super into homeopathy. My mom is really into it, made me go to a homeopath since I was like 8 till I was like 16. And it was mainly because I was really afraid of spiders and really bad period pains. Both still true.
So it didn't work. Okay.
So
what did they do for spiders? Like what?
Like what you do is like you go, it's kind of like a therapy session. Like you just talk about like your life, you talk about whatever. And then they give you this mix of little granules and it's supposed to be like, don't take my word for it, okay? But I feel like it's like you're microdosing certain things. Actually.
There's mushrooms in it?
No. Okay, don't listen to me. I really don't know. But anyway, they're like these little sugar pills, okay, that they give you. And you're supposed to let them dissolve in your mouth and then whatever, it's supposed to cure you. Listen, like there's some things that are homeopathic that are like cool and real. There's like this thing called magnesium copper and that you put that in your mouth and then it helps you if you feel like you're getting a cold. Like there's different things. All I'm going to say is that the thing for the spiders did not work. Okay. Elyse has firsthand experience. Yeah. Spiders are still not my thing. And period pains will
still happen.
Yeah.
So Poppy's then reflecting on how the Duke spoke of her mother. She knows that her mother never came to Macedonia, and it was rare that the Ascended traveled. So how did they meet? And she's trying to figure it out. The Duke also had a strange look on his face while talking about her mother. Quote, nostalgia mixed with what? Anger, perhaps? Disappointment? Had whatever interactions he'd had with her caused the way he behaved towards me. And then after reading that quote, I was like, oh, is this like a Freaky Friday situation? You've seen Freaky?
Of course I've seen Freaky Friday. Elyse, come on.
You know how the teacher like hates her because he liked the mom and then he was rejected, so he's just like makes her life a living hell?
Oh, yeah. That's such a not what I remember from that movie. I remember where she comes to her office and there's that bald guy and he's like, you lied to me, you're a liar. Like, I remember that. I remember Chad Michael Murray singing Hit Me Baby One More Time.
He's going to be in the new one, too.
I know.
I'm so excited.
Me too.
I watched that movie a stupid amount of times.
Me too. I remember when she's on the daytime TV show and she goes, senescence, as in senile.
Yeah, no, I also like was really into like rock and I was learning how to play guitar and I just like wanted to be Lindsay Lohan in that movie so bad. Anyway,
with those awful streaks.
Yeah. But I definitely like kind of dressed like her in high school and elementary school whenever it came out. So I dressed a lot more like Regina George. That's fair.
Different movie, but.
Yeah, no, but same era. Yeah. Anyway, so Poppy's been in a room for 2 days. It's going to take us like an hour to get through this chapter. Poppy's been in a room for 2 days, mostly avoiding Hawke. She didn't want to see him because she didn't want to appear weak in front of him or to know what truly happened with the Duke. And then she goes back to thinking about their interaction, there being Hawke and hers, and wondering how he would react to the scars, because he never actually ended up like touching them, but he came real close. And she can't stop thinking about how it was her first kiss and he didn't even know it, and all those fluttery butterfly feelings. Then she's looking out the window and she sees torches scattered across the land. She starts kind of wishing that she was out there as a guard instead of a chosen one. She wants to be doing something productive to protect the city, but also realizes like technically her role is productive for the city, but she doesn't feel like it's enough. So she seems to want to like, she's more of an action type person than a... She says, quote, "In reality, my ascension would do more than protect one city. It would ensure the entire future of the kingdom." What does that mean? Like I was saying before, we're getting these little nuggets of how important it all is, but we don't know what it is.
Oh, I know.
It's frustrating.
I know.
Okay. Do we find out in this book?
I don't remember.
Okay, that's fair. No, that's fair. I mean, there's so many. I get it. I find like every time there's a line like that where we're given, not really given, but just like acknowledging the importance of the maiden and the ascension and everything, but we're not given any facts. Like I want to pull my hair out.
It's how she gets you to keep coming back for more.
Yeah, maybe. Anyway, Poppy spots torches beyond the wall now, which is not good. And the guards start sending flame-lit arrows just beyond the wall. So obviously they're under attack. But she also notices the fog is there.
The mist.
She calls it fog at first.
Oh, does she?
Yeah.
Oh.
And then, yeah, she does acknowledge that it is the mist, as in the Craven mist. So Craven are coming. And there's horns blaring, and Poppy snaps into action. So she goes, she grabs her bow. Tawny rushes in the room, trying to stop her, saying, like, "You can't die, you're the maiden, ah!" But Poppy wants to be part of the action and wants to do something useful. So she knows that the Duke and Duchess are going to be hidden behind the guards, and no one is going to notice her sneaking out. Oh yeah, side note, Tawny actually says her full name, Penelope Balfour.
Mm-hmm. You didn't know that?
I don't know.
She says it in the first book because she calls herself kin of the Balfours.
Oh, okay. So I was going to ask you, is that the first time we hear it? Because it's the first time I noticed it.
No.
Anyway.
It's a French name.
Yeah. Poppy then tells Tawny where to find weapons should the castle be breached and is off. Right before she leaves, Tawny reminds her that her face is unveiled. And all she does is pull up her hood. Which, risky? No. Mimi's just shrugging at me, so... Anyway.
I must keep an air of mystery.
Okay. The castle is in chaos, so Poppy is able to like slip right on by everyone with no problem. She does note that her slippers are not ideal footwear, but she carries on. She gets to the western wall, and the mist is heavy with the scent of metal and decay.
Blood.
Poppy spots an empty battlement and conveniently finds a bunch of quivers with bloodstone arrows, so she just grabs those to go along with it. And then she hears a low howl, a sound that haunts her nightmares. And that means the Craven are coming. Right before the Craven attack, Poppy does spot Victor, front and center, ready for battle. And the guards are sending arrows over the wall. And then finally, she spots a Craven. And I'll just read you a lovely description of what these guys look like. Quote, "Their pale bodies a milky white, leached of all color. Their faces sunken and hollow. Eyes burning like fiery coal. Mouths open wide, revealing 2 sets of jagged, serrated teeth. Their fingers were elongated into claws, and both their fangs and their claws could fillet skin like the softest butter."
I was just thinking about, like, I bake a lot, especially around the holidays, and there's this Egyptian date cookie, which requires you to use blocks and blocks of butter that you have to go, like, mush up with your fingers and then, you know, mix into the flour to make the dough. And I was just thinking, as I read that sentence, I was just imagining my fingers like going through the butter, and I was like, that's disgusting.
Well, they're really good cookies. So.
Yeah, they are good cookies. And I hope that from now until December, I will get that mental image out of my mind.
Yeah, it'll make for an interesting baking session.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, Poppy just acknowledges that those are the claws that nearly killed her before her 6th birthday. And that's it. Poppy's about to face her nightmares. That's where the chapter ends.
Exciting stuff.
It is exciting.
Dimple count.
None.
Question count.
9. Do you have awards this time?
I do.
Okay, let's hear your most romantic.
It doesn't matter what they may or may not do. There wasn't a second of hesitation there. The risk is worth it. Knowing you can protect yourself, I would gladly take whatever punishment I received, and I wouldn't regret what I've done.
Love it.
Yeah, it's Victor telling her.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
I just wrote Victor's worry about Poppy, but that is perfect.
Yeah, I love that. Do you have a funniest?
I'd rather spend the evening plucking my own body hair from very sensitive areas than spend hours with that dragon of a woman.
That's funny.
It is funny.
Mine is, be safe, Poppy. Please, I will be so very disappointed if I'm assigned to serve the Duchess, or worse yet, given to the temple in service of the gods. Not that it wouldn't be an honor to serve them, she tacked on, placing her hand over her heart. But the whole celibacy thing.
Oh, Tawny.
Do you have a spiciest?
I had wrote, actually, I would gladly take whatever punishment I receive, and I wouldn't regret what I've done. As in, like, a defiant line.
Yeah.
But when you tack it along with everything else, it definitely reads more romantic.
Yeah. I have, and if the Dark One tries to come for me, I will be ready for him too. And that's my defiant line.
Chapter 15. Poppy shows us what she could do with a bow, taking down many a Craven. The fun ends with a familiar voice as Hawke shows up. She tries to get away, but her identity is revealed when Hawke calls her princess.
Oh. Okay, Poppy's on the rise, but she's lost sight of Victor, so she momentarily panics that he's fallen, but it's a false alarm. She spots him again. She calms herself down and remembers Victor's training. Quote, once your fingers take hold of the string, the world around you must cease to exist. It's just you, the pull of the string, and your aim. Nothing else matters. And it reminds me of that scene with Chris Pine and Anne Hathaway in Princess Diaries 2 when he's showing her how to shoot the arrow.
Yes.
Just love that. Love that movie. Oh, man. Anyway, she's just shooting arrow after arrow, and she's killing it. She's
a badass.
She's felling all sorts of Craven, and I love it. The moment she saves Victor's butt, he just looks up at her, quote, and although I couldn't see his face, I knew he wore the expression he always did when he was proud yet irritated. I just love that. But no matter how great Poppy is doing, the Craven are gaining on the rise, and they have managed to reach the top. As she's observing the attack, she notices that the Craven look more quote-unquote fresh, so she's thinking that they're newly turned. By now, there are only a handful of Craven left, so the mist is starting to dissipate, and it's revealing the carnage below. And she's, like, contemplating how sad and disgusting it is when she hears a deep voice behind her. It's Hawke. His clothes are tattered, revealing that he's been beyond the rise as well as Victor, which she notes he didn't have to do as a royal guard. So this is just another tick in the pro-Hawke box because he's going above and beyond in protecting the people of Macedonia, and it just goes to show that he is a man of integrity. He compliments her beauty once more, despite the fact that her hood is covering her face. Quote, the last thing I expected to find, a hooded lady with a talent for archery manning one of the battlements. The dimple made an appearance on his right cheek, and I felt the tug low in my stomach. Why did he have to have such a ... charming grin? It was the kind I knew numerous others had fallen prey to. I doubted any of them regretted that fall. I knew I didn't. I'm so ready for the romance. I'm just dying here. Anyway, she's back to her mute game because she's trying to hide her identity, and she's trying to shimmy away from him, like subtly escape the situation, but he blocks her, asking her what she's doing there. Then he makes the mistake of grabbing her arm because girl knows how to fight a man heavier than her, and she attacks him, kicks his legs out from under him, and now Hawke is fighting back. We are back to dagger play. I missed this. I missed flirting with daggers. As she's running away after having incapacitated him, he throws a dagger to pin her cloak to the wall, and now he's like toying with her. And even though she's getting so mad, she's also infuriated by the fact that he's obviously so good at what he does and that he is very good looking. And I just found that really funny. Like, she's
so flustered.
I know. There's really not much more to say about this chapter because you really just have to read it for the banter.
Yeah.
And the physical, like the physicality of the two of them and how they are really evenly matched in terms of skill, which I love to see. So yeah.
Yeah. There was just like one little thing that I noted was at one point, as she's trying to make a break for it, he like drops down in front of her. And Poppy's like, how the hell did he get here? Like looking back as to where he was, like it's almost like he's like unnaturally nimble. And it's the second time that he's surprised her by like popping out of nowhere. With his stealth. So I noted it. But otherwise,
he could just be very good at his job.
He could be. But otherwise, I agree. It's just like really fun banter and you just gotta
enjoy it. Yeah. So I have 1 dimple count.
1 dimple.
And I have no questions.
No questions.
Okay, it's the first time today that we're on the same page. Woo!
That's really funny.
Okay.
Awards. Mm-hmm. Do you have a most romantic?
You must be the goddess Belle or Layla given mortal form.
Same.
Ugh. I could just... In the audiobook, he has a British accent. So
really?
Yeah.
I could see that.
Do you have a funniest?
I'm aware that my hair is in need of a trim, but your aim is off. You should really work on that since I'm quite partial to my face.
Same.
It's actually really funny in like moments like that, like lines like that, his demeanor and the fact that you say he's British would only add to that, but is similar to the way the main character in Princess Bride acts. Like he has like that type of humor and those type of lines. So in reading it, like I'm picturing Wesley from Princess Bride a lot just because of the way, like his delivery and his humor and stuff, which only makes me like him more because you know how much I love Princess Bride. Yeah. Obviously, Princess Bride is way less sexually charged, but...
Listen, you can't have it all. What's your spiciest line?
Oh, just that she pulls a dagger on him.
Oh, I thought we were going to go 3 for 3.
Oh, I'm sorry. I couldn't pick a line. What's yours?
Okay, I said you're an absolutely stunning, murderous little creature. Nice weapon. Bloodstone and woven bone. Very interesting. ...
Princess. That's great.
Yeah.
Chapter 16. Hawke has Poppy in his grasp and is loving every minute of the banter and torment. Poppy wants to get away before her identity is revealed, but Hawke knew all along. Back in her room, Poppy tells Tawny about the attack. Then, as promised, Hawke comes by to finish what they started.
Yeah! But it's really not, like, yet.
I wrote finish what they started, leaving it very ambiguous because I didn't know what was coming next. Because, like, it could have been finish the conversation or things could have gone further.
No, unfortunately,
I don't know.
It's the first of the two.
I like a slow burn. I know you don't, but...
I like a slow burn because I think it's better for the story.
Yeah.
But sometimes, I mean... Like, I am reading War of Lost Gods trilogy by Carissa Broadbent. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure that's the name of the series. First book is Daughter of No Worlds. Absolutely incredible, by the way. I know I've been talking about it for the last couple weeks, but seriously, highly, highly recommend. Mm-hmm. I'm reading the second one right now. That is one heck of a slow burn.
Oh, really?
Oh my gosh. Torturously slow.
But, like, good?
Yeah, but I mean, you know.
That's funny.
Yeah.
All right, chapter 16. Poppy realizes that the dagger gave her away, or so she thinks. And Hawke says they have a lot to talk about. But Poppy insists they don't and still tries to get away. Hawke is just loving this. He is eating it up, and he's not going to let her go. He taunts her with, quote, "After all we shared, you throw a dagger at my face?" And Poppy tries to play it off like it was only a few kisses, but deep down, those few kisses, like, meant a lot to her.
Yeah, they changed her life.
Yeah, and she's like
She's been dreaming about them every night.
No more nightmares. She's reeling that it's her only experience, and it has such a chokehold on her. Mm-hmm. And they banter back and forth, and kind of like the last chapter, it's like, I'm not going to reread all the banter, but it is great. And Hawke's just laying it on thick and flirty, but Poppy's trying to act like she's unaffected. Then for a moment, Poppy questions if Hawke realizes that she's the maiden or not just the girl from the Red Pearl. Really, Poppy?
Like I said, she's naive, very sheltered.
I don't know. I found that was a little bit
It's the whole Hannah Montana, Clark Kent story, you know?
You're right. But I was like...
But actually, you know what's funny is I did see a meme the other day of Zooey Deschanel with bangs and glasses versus without bangs and glasses. Right. And the person wrote, like, now I can understand how people didn't identify Clark Kent.
That's really funny. Yeah, she does look very different without. Anyway, Hawke won't let her go and is questioning why she's on the rise and being reckless and why she would think the guards would desperately need help. And Poppy's taken aback, like, is this because she's a woman? And Hawke replies, I've known women with far less beautiful breasts that could cut a man down without so much as blinking an eye.
Park.
Okay.
That took you a second?
I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah, Park.
But it was interesting because in that moment, Poppy's like, wait, where are these women from? Where are these women? I need to meet these women. And then she's also like, wait a minute. Beautiful breasts? So yeah, her head is spinning. Like she doesn't know what to make of anything he's saying. It's great.
I love the dynamic of, I don't know, it could be problematic, but I don't care. I love the dynamic of the like naive girl that the guy's clearly like obsessed with. I love how he is coming from a position of power and experience. And he's just riling her up. And she's falling for every trap he's laying for her. And he's just enjoying it. And it's like a cat and mouse type of situation.
Yeah.
And, you know, like she's just getting more and more aggravated, more and more violent. And I just love it.
For sure. I mean, he's doing it because he's seeing
he's
how
getting the rise
she's
out of her.
responding.
Yeah.
But also I think he also knows she kind of loves it despite her protests, you know? Like,
yeah, she doesn't want to admit that she does.
yeah, exactly. But like he sees through that. Anyway, it's fun. It was a fun 2 chapters for sure. Though Hawke is impressed with her fighting skills, he says it's too bad she didn't learn how to evade capture. So taunting her even further, and she tries to kick him in his sensitive area, but he just evades it. Like he's just too good for this, you know? Then they share a really intense moment before Hawke spits out, "I came back for you that night."
Oh, dagger in the chest.
But Poppy says she just couldn't stay, and he doesn't know anything about her. And that's when he reveals that he knows more than she might think. Quote, "Do you really think I have no idea who you are? You have nothing to say to that, Penelope?"
Love it.
Side note, he didn't see her face this whole time. Like, did she really think a hood would have protected her through all of this?
Well, maybe the hood is covering the portion of her face that the mask did.
Like, maybe, and he is taller than her, but just throughout all their, like, pushing and pulling and evading and twisting and moving and falling, and it's kind of...
You've got to suspend disbelief sometimes when you're reading a book.
Yeah. It's a choice. That's all. I just wanted to say it's a choice. Okay. He then reveals that he knew as soon as she removed her veil in the Duke's office. And then someone calls his name, approaching, and Poppy begs him to let her go before she gets caught and her identity is revealed. And then for like half a second, Hawke kind of toys with the idea because he goes on to say how much easier his job would be if she did get caught because she'd no longer be able to sneak around and stuff, which totally sends Poppy in a real panic. And she blurts out no, and he has no idea what the Duke would do to her. After an intense stare, he then just tells her to go back to her chambers and they'll continue the conversation later.
I did want to point out one thing because Poppy's fear through the whole time that Hawke became her guard from the Red Pearl until this moment is that he would go to the Duke and reveal her secrets. And he says, "But you did ask why I didn't tell the Duke about your little explorations. Why would I do that? I'm your guard. If I were to betray you, then you wouldn't trust me. And that would definitely make my job of keeping you safe much harder." And I think that that's really clever of him because it's a way to get her to trust him and lose that fear without, like, I guess in a context that she can't really argue with because he's using his job as the explanation and reason rather than, oh, just trust me or I'm a good person or blah, 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 blah.
Back in Poppy's chamber, Tawny was waiting for her worried, and Poppy's mind is racing between the attack that she just fought and Hawke's revelation. Poppy explains the attack was stopped, but had they been more in numbers, the Craven could have breached the rise, which is really scary. Poppy also thinks to herself that some soldiers might actually return to their homes tonight bitten, which means more Craven or more work for her and Victor. Then there's a knock on her bedroom door, and it's Hawke, and he's ready to finish the conversation.
Yeah.
And that's where it ends. And I think for the first time, annoyed I had to stop reading, which happened a lot in other seasons. But this time I was just like, oh, this is the first time I would have continued. Anyway.
Dimple count.
1.
Question count.
13. I did not have a romantic.
I mean, mine was, it could have been spicy, but I made it romantic. And it's It was more than a few kisses. His voice dropped low. If you've forgotten, I'm more than willing to remind you.
Okay. Yeah, I would say that's spicy. But yeah.
Whatever. I chose to make it romantic. Sue me. Do you have a funniest?
Now you insult me after throwing a dagger at my face? You've wounded my tender feelings.
Same. And your spiciest?
But if you let go of the dagger, there's a whole lot of me I'll let your hands get close to.
Ooh. I like that.
Spicy.
Yeah, mine was more spicy sassy, and it's time for that talk, princess. Because the chickens are coming to roost. Is that the expression?
Chickens are coming to roost?
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay, well, there you go. Let's pretend I said that with confidence.
And that's it, folks.
And that's it. So for next week, we're going to do chapters 17 through 20. Thank you so much for listening. Please rate this podcast and leave us a review. It'll help other people find us. If you haven't already, we encourage you to set new episodes to download so that you're sure to be up to date. If you're interested in supporting the podcast, we have our Amazon storefront and our discount code with Smoke Show as always. You can follow us on Instagram at Book Bound Pod and on TikTok at Book Bound Besties. Please share that you're listening to the pod.
Yes, spread the word.
Spread the word. Send us any theories, memes, funny videos, sounds, you name it. We love that stuff. It's always a joy to interact in the DMs. Mm-hmm. And if you have any questions, comments, or feedback, please email us at bookboundpod@gmail.com. Let's get to reading.